Blog Talk Radio. Today is Wednesday, September 13th, 2017, and this is Foxology. I am Silver Ray Fox, your host, and I hope that all of you all have been having an amazing day, and thank you for taking the time to check out the show tonight. I really deem this show necessary, and fortunately I've got some great guests. There are a lot of issues that are occurring that I know are difficult, painful for a lot of us, and I'm hoping that tonight the goal is to try to shed some light, even maybe provide some advice and help to those of us who are having our major concerns, and maybe, just maybe, we can help calm some of our fears as well. I'm really pleased to have two very special guests today, Mr. Dennis Jones and Mr. Corey Pegues, both with extensive law enforcement background. Both are retired executives from NYPD. Both are performing large, impacting roles in our communities and on the societal front, and both still on the front line working to make a positive difference in the lives of others. Mr. Jones is currently the Director of Safety for Help USA and Executive Director of Metro New York Concerns of Police Survivors. Mr. Pegues is an author. He has written a book entitled Once a Cop, The Law, Two Worlds, One Man. He's also a motivational speaker and, as I mentioned, a community leader and an expert witness on police-related topics. Well, both have agreed to have some discussion with me today about some of the things that many of us are concerned about, the use of excessive force, racial profiling, and the trouble with all of that stuff. It's an honor to be able to talk with both of you gentlemen. Welcome to my show.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Well, what we're going to do here, I'm going to lead off with just a short comment, and then I'd like to go between the both of you, and I will indicate which of you I'm asking the question, but feel free to chime in at any time during the conversation that you'd like to say something or add something. As I said to you just before the show started, this show is in no means to be an attack on law enforcement. That's the goal is to provide some insight, as I said earlier, some perspectives, and maybe even with your extensive experience in law enforcement, you can help us to help ourselves and also help calm some of the fears that we have in regard to many of the issues, because and it's no news, we're troubled when we see, officers behaving badly, ignoring protocols, using the excessive force. Individuals are being killed. It's pretty horrible. And I know there's more encounters, thousands every day, that we don't get to see that I'm sure end well, but we get to see so many that end poorly. And so, Mr. Pegues, I want to start with you by asking you a question, because I watched your C-SPAN interview today, and you said something that I would like for you to give some more emphasis on. When we see these videos of these cops again behaving badly, I think about the training, because often my thought has been, where the heck is the training involved in some of the interactions that we're seeing? And something you said people look to police officers for everything, and you said common sense and discretion is what police work is. And that being a very powerful phrase, what's happening that protocols are not being recognized with some of the stuff we're seeing?
Well, first of all, again, thank you for having me and Dennis on the show, and congratulations to you for
You're
having
welcome.
this platform.
Thank you.
So what happens in policing is the training. You know, I kind of hate when people say that police officers are inadequately trained. I really despise that conversation, only because what you're saying is when you say that, you pretty much are giving the departments a pass by saying you sent people out there not trained. No, the cops are up to standard. They get physical training. They get penal law training, laws. They're getting all the training. But what's happening, what we need to start figuring out in policing is what happens from a well-trained officer graduated out of the academy to getting into the street and getting 15 complaints or shooting an unarmed black man, woman, white man, whatever. We have to find out what that is. And I'm like a de facto expert on that from being 21 years in the police department. What happens is, if you look at all these cases, and I like to bring the Eric Garner case up all the time because, it was a homicide by asphyxiation. That's what the medical examiner said. But let's look at the cop that murdered him. When you look back in his record, he's been sued for whatever, $70 million. He had 12 complaints. And so when I look at things like that, I'm trying to figure out, what happened with the 12 complaints before? Are we just pacifying them? Because I know what happens with policing. They just pacify these guys and just, keep passing them by. And the way you have to deal with police officers is almost like a domestic violence. Like I tell my kids, my daughters specifically, domestic violence starts off verbally. He's going to curse you out, slap you, kick you, punch you, stab you. Then he's going to eventually kill you with a gun. So the first time he curses you out, that's when you need to say, listen, my daddy taught me better than this. I don't need to be with you. And that's what needs to happen in policing. If a cop verbally curses somebody out, I'm not telling you to fire him, but you have to do something. Don't just say, okay, ma'am or sir, I'm sorry that cop was being disrespectful to you. It won't happen again. No, because in policing what happens is when you punish one, it reverberates throughout the entire police department that the hierarchy is not going to play. In law enforcement, leadership is top down. It's not bottom up. So if the top is allowing things to fester, you're going to eventually have an out-of-control police department. You're eventually going to have unarmed black men and women getting killed with nobody being, held accountable for it. District attorneys laying in bed with police departments pretty much because they got to work hand in hand. And, I'm of the mindset that there should be a special prosecutor whenever there's a police-involved shooting. Definitely when a bullet strikes somebody. And not saying that, we should lock up the cops, but let's get a different eye to look at the incident other than the district attorney who's always dependent on the cop to get his conviction rates up.
Yes. And I didn't mean to imply that I didn't think the training was good. I already know that the training is outstanding. I already know that.
I didn't think that you thought that. I was just saying because a lot of people say that. As soon as somebody gets killed as an unarmed person, the first thing the community says is, what's up with the trainer? We got to stop giving them a pass and saying the trainer is not good. Because, like I said, you're basically saying that they sent somebody out there that's not trained. That's not the case. Departments are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to train these police officers.
Yes, they do. And listen, I want both of you to reflect on what I'm going to say next because my background is as a corporate trainer. I have had the opportunity to interact positively with lots of police officers because I worked for a municipality. I had them in my classes. And what comes to mind is a particular officer shared something with me that truly blew my mind, and I'm wondering if this may be getting to the core of some of the issues. What I found about them, though, I'll say this first, that they were better listeners, better participants, and more cooperative than many other departments that I worked with. I found that really awesome. This particular officer told me that one of the reasons he was in my class was because and this was his quote, he had no compassion. Well, part of our jobs as trainers, and you know this, is to try to provide behavior modification skills, try to offer new skill sets that will help transform how they react in certain situations. That was interesting, but he repeated it to me several times. I appreciated the transparency and the honesty that I got from officers always. So I know a lot about that part of it. But when he said that, I said to him, I said, that's interesting, but here's the thing. Whether you are compassionate or not, you're going to have to act like it, and that's what we'll work on. Now, I don't know what he took away with that. I usually only saw people a day, maybe 2 days of training. But when I look back on that, and you think about an individual having no compassion in what they're doing or how they react to people, does that at all feed into what you just described, that it's not the training, it's the person? And maybe there are individuals who really don't need to be in that profession. Mr. Jones, what would you say?
Well, I think and I agree with a lot of what Mr. Begee said. It goes toward the core of the direction that the departments are going in, and a statement such as "I don't have any compassion" goes to the same core of what community policing is. So when you have a cop that doesn't have compassion for others, doesn't have compassion for the community he's working in, doesn't have compassion for victims or even for people that are calling the police, then you've got a person that shouldn't be wearing that uniform, shouldn't be carrying that badge, so that when he appeals to others and when he is now on a particular job or whatever, he's not going to show any kind of comfort to the people. And as we talked about on the onset of this call, is that the police are called for everything. Can you imagine the police being called for everything, and you're dealing with a young child that's involved in domestic violence or involved in child abuse case, and this officer has no compassion for that child whatsoever? How effective is he going to be in that particular situation? And that's what we have when we have these officers that use excessive force. They don't have the compassion to understand every move you make can take a life. Every move that you make is actually can be an aggressive and overly aggressive move that might end the life of the person that you are either trying to question, trying to arrest, or just merely investigating. So it is something that when you have an officer saying something like that, that's a worry to me.
It's a worry to all of us because it looks like a lot of them don't have any compassion. It looks that way.
Well, you'll find that, as I said, I think you find that that's cultivated within the departments. It's not that the officers, as we said, when they train, that they come out that way. But when you come out of the academy, or even when you go into the academy, you're going into the academy with a zeal. You're coming out with this extra zeal added on with the uniform. And then now you go out into the communities that you're going out to serve, but you get a culture that hits you, the culture from the now embedded into the police departments. And that culture turns you and makes you what that department is in that particular community. That's it.
Wow. Mr. Keys, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Yes. So you hit it on the nose when you the advice that you gave the person, because I remember when I was a commanding officer, I was commander of two separate precincts, two of the most violent precincts in the city of New York. And I would tell my cops all the time that when you come to work, you got to check your attitude at the door. I know that there's some cops that don't like white people. I know there's cops that don't like black people. I know that. But I would tell them, you got to check your attitude at the door. It's like me. I don't eat red meat or pork, so you can't make me eat it. I'm not going to eat it. So if you don't like a particular segment of the community, I can't make you like them. But once you gave that advice, you don't gotta like them. I just need you to like them for 8 hours and 35 minutes, or however many hours you work.
Good.
Then when you leave, you could go back to hating them. Because if you're going to be in my community, I demand that you respect everybody. You will show compassion. I will guarantee you. Because as a leader, I was an attitude changer. I'll change your attitude for 8 hours. You're going to love this community. I'm going to guarantee it. Or I'm going to take your job. That's the type of leadership you need out there, though. But you're not going to get that leadership. I'm an anomaly.
How successful were you both at recognizing those officers that were unable to handle the job effectively, and were you successful at removing them?
Oh, well, I was a commander, so I could remember one early on when I got the 6-7 precinct, somebody put a bug on my ear that there was this young white cop that was very abusive. And so I grabbed him and I brought him into my office and said, hey, Joe, whatever his name was, what's going on? I'm here. You got all these complaints. You got 3 years on the job. And I had a heart-to-heart talk with him. You know what he told me? He said, honestly, I didn't understand the people or really like the people when I got. He basically told me he didn't like black people. It was an all-black community, Caribbean community. And I respected him for that. And I said, you know what? Well, I'm here now. You got a new slate. And so I'm going to be watching you carefully. And you do know the people in this community, they look like me. So you know that I have a lot of compassion for this community. Long story short, he ended up being one of the best cops that I had. We changed his attitude.
There was some intervention there.
Dennis, I recognized it. Somebody put the buck on my ear. And so once you get that information, now how are you going to act on it? And I acted swiftly on it.
Absolutely.
That's excellent. What about you, Mr. Jones?
Well, I spent time in internal affairs on investigating officers, and, a lot of those complaints were more than just, the character, but more of excessive force or theft or all sorts of different types of things. It was actually an eye-opener to me because I had like a glassy eye working through the police department and in different units and in different precincts. And when I went to internal affairs, I saw the ugliest side of the department. And it was like almost like, wow, I did not even know that this is what cops do. That the cops that put a uniform on actually rob people. Cops that put a uniform on actually hurt people. It was an unbelievable eye opener. It made me realize that not all of us sitting in this department with this uniform on, carrying these badges and these guns, are in it for the same reason. And in that realization, once I am able to get that picture in my head, I can believe anything can happen. So, I worked in the precinct that you had Mr. Louima who was sodomized. And when that hit, I was in internal affairs, and I said that was real because I saw the ugliness. There were so many other people who was like, oh, that never could possibly happen. But the moment that hit, I knew it was real. And I knew the character of the person that did it. So, you have the job never looks for that. You might have a commander like Corey that was out there doing that, but the job doesn't look for it. The job actually avoids indicators such as CCRB complaints and things like that. CCRB in New York, greatest thing that there could ever be, but ineffective. And then in other places, you don't even have one. So if that's the case, all across the country, we've got problems, and nothing is in place to catch the indicator.
Mm-hmm.
So, gentlemen, listen. When you say what you're saying, then you obviously know how society, communities feel, how intimidating, how fearful. My daughter shared a story with me just the other day when I told her about this interview, and I was really surprised that she had not mentioned it prior. It happened a couple of years ago. She was driving my granddaughter home from her university in Oklahoma,
and they were going through some small towns, and she said that an officer stopped her, came to the window, and said to her, you clocked at 11 miles over the speed limit. And she said, oh, really? I don't think so. And immediately his response was, shut up. And I'm not saying it with the right emphasis, I'm sure, but this is how it went.
Yeah.
But listen, this is not where the story ends. So he took her driver's license and information that he needed, came back. My daughter said another officer came, a woman, and talked to the officer that was in the car. And he came back to my daughter after a few minutes and said, I don't need any commentary from you. Gave her a license back. He said, if this had been the officer that just left or any other officer, this wouldn't be anything like this. He said that to her. Why did he offer that information? I'm not sure. Happened 2 years ago, and I was sitting there shaking on the phone, which he told me. She said she sat there for 30 minutes in her car and cried. So these wow. and I was going to say she wouldn't hurt a fly, but she probably hurt a few insects. But she's not that person that was going to get into any big dialogue or argument with anybody. So we really don't know, and it's being said more and more. It could be any of us. We don't know what to do right. We don't know when we're doing wrong. I need you guys to give us some indications on how we really should be handling it. I know I see lots of videos of parents talking to their children, creating scenarios. Let's hear from you. What do we need to do when we are approached? Because honestly, I see a lot of people, they're handling it wrong and they're ending up in some bad situations. Tell us your perspective. Give us some guidance. What should we be doing when we're approached if we're stopped for a traffic violation or outside of a store or whatever the case may be?
Well,
Ms. Jones, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, it's great that you asked that question because Corey and I, we started an organization as soon as we kind of retired and got together, and we started, going out, talking to people. He's all over the place. I'm all over the place. We have other people in our organization that speak out. It's called the Law Enforcement Alliance, and we go to schools and we go to groups and churches and talk to people just about this particular topic because it is probably the most dangerous scenario that exists out there for interactions with police. And if we could save one person through our discussion, that's what we look for. Yes. Two of the most volatile scenarios that Corey will talk about is the car stop and then also that dispute inside of your home. Those two encounters are probably where most of this problems happen, where we have deaths and we have shootings and things like that, excessive force cases, abuse cases for police and citizenry.
Yeah. So.
And so, what guidance will you give us?
Yeah. So,
sure.
All right. So we talk about the three stops, the most common stops that you're gonna have in the street, in the car, or in your home. Most of the time, people are probably gonna encounter the cop in the car. So I'll just give you a few tips with that. And we say this all the time that the motto is comply then complain. All right. A lot of people, we get a lot of flack from that because everybody's like, well, I don't want to comply. Why should I comply? You don't have to comply. I'm just going to give you the information. A car stop is the most dangerous part of a cop's job because let's say you're driving, like your daughter was driving, says she went 11 miles over. I'm just using that as an example. That cop, and I'm not talking about that particular incident. We could talk about that later. I'm talking about he's just trying to pull somebody over because they went 11 miles over the speed limit. Meanwhile, the person that's going 11 miles over just killed 3 people, and they think that cop is coming to lock them up. But all he wants is to get this ticket for the red light or the busted tail light or 11 miles. So when you get these incidents, these car incidents, cops are raised up, especially if it's at nighttime. They're really raised up with these cartons. So what we suggest is, I suggest to everyone, roll all your windows down. If it's nighttime, put your dome light on. Take your key, put it on top of the dash, or cut your car off if you got a keyless car. Let them see your hands. For me, I put my left hand out the window and my right hand on top of the steering wheel. And when the cop approaches me to the car and asks me for my license, registration, I'm not asking him no question. I'm not asking him, what did I get pulled over for? Why are you bothering me? I'm not going to have any dialogue. I'm going to let him totally control the situation. And when he asks for my license, registration, insurance, I'm going to verbalize every move I make, especially if it's two cops, one on the left and one on the right. My wallet is in my right back pocket. Officer, may I reach for it? If he says yes, and there's a cop on the passenger side, I'm not reaching for my wallet until he tells that cop that I'm about to reach for my wallet. I'm going to ask him, can you tell the officer over there that I'm about to reach for my wallet, please? Because I want this thing to go smoothly. If he curses me out, I don't care. If I get a summons, I don't care. The ultimate goal is to get back home to your family. And if that means you got to take a summons or some verbal abuse, you can always complain later. Get lawyers. You got the ACLU, Reverend Al Sharpton, NAACP, all of these different organizations, local politicians. But what happens when you look at every one of these like national incidents, maybe except for Tamir Rice and Castillo, the Castillo case.
Yeah, Castillo case.
I could look at all of these other incidents and pretty much probably find where it went wrong. And I'm not blaming the victims. We're never going to blame the victims. But if we want to be realist about this, we got to start looking at these incidents because there's video now. Before, there was no video. You know what I mean? Dead black men buried where there was no video. We got video now, and they still dying. So but what we got to do is start analyzing these videos. Like, at what point are we going to stop talking to the police? Just comply with the orders. Trust me, it's almost like you have an argument with your wife, and she's screaming, and you're just talking in a small voice like, listen, baby, honey, I'm sorry I didn't do it. Eventually, a light bulb is going to click, and she's going to be like, wow, I'm the only one screaming. That's the same thing with the cops. I'm telling you, I did this for a long time. The more the person is complying, the cop is going to come down if they're raised up. Even the cop that's the a-hole. Eventually he goes, man, this man or woman, like, they're not even doing anything, and I'm really being a prick. Hopefully that's what happens. But when you start verbalizing to them, why you pull me over, get your boss to the scene, where's your supervisor, what's your shield number, I know where you work, you did this, you did that. It only is going to, and I'm not saying it's right, man. I'm not saying it's right. I'm only going to give you tips that let you get back home to your family. I know my sons, my 21-year-old son, my 30-year-old son, they know the routine. They know the routine, and they know when they finish, call daddy, and we could get a lawyer on that. And it hurts because your pride, you're grown, and you got somebody there probably 10 years younger than you, screaming and yelling, saying all these nasty things to you. But would you rather get a summons and go home or leave with bracelets going to the precinct?
Bullet.
If not, leaving in an ambulance.
A bullet.
Exactly.
I'm going to say something to add to that, and then, Mr. Jones, I'd like for you to respond.
Sure.
I actually have that written down in my notes because an officer told me that personally that I was working with, that their goal is to make it home. And
right.
I think that if we can really internalize what you just explained, swallow our pride, our ego, our everything, we have to tell ourselves, my goal is to get home too. Two different types of reasoning for saying it. But
that's right.
The plan should be the same. I'm planning to go home. So it means that in spite of how angry or disturbed, frustrated, or any other onset of emotions we may feel, we just gotta zip it and comply. And I know that's difficult for the man and the girls with big girl panties and all that stuff. But plan to go home. That should be the plan. That's
exactly what that officer is planning. And if it came down between the two of you, he's probably going to be the one to go home. So
that's right.
I'm glad you said that, because I did get that information straight from an officer's mouth that they're planning to go home. We need to plan to go home by any means necessary, and not to keep our mouths shut. I mean, you can obviously see, and I don't want to say anything could have turned out differently than some of what we've seen. I don't know that. That's the fact. But we do see there's often so much that's being countered when the officer does approach, and it seems to be very and please respond to this, seems to be very disturbing. They don't like the rebuttal. They feel, I guess, disrespected. I don't know. Maybe you can reflect on what they're experiencing by hearing rebuttal, but that's when everything goes south. So
you have
what would you say, Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, you definitely continue to raise that level of that officer till it gets to a bubbling point. If it's always a conversation back and forth, you have a problem with what he's saying, you have a problem with him standing there, you have a problem with what he's asking you for, you have a problem that he pulled you over. It is, he already knows right now, I've got a problem. You know, it started out as not a problem. It only started out as just, coming to the car either to give a ticket or to give a warning. And that's what they do. They do it so simply. But when you got to question everything, now he knows I got a problem. And that's what turns it around. And I wanted to mention that if you listen to what Corey was saying, he internalized everything. He said, he says, this is what I do every time. Corey's a retired deputy inspector. I'm a retired detective. We do this every time someone will pull us over. We're not going to go, hey, I'm a cop, leave me alone. No, that we still do that now, and we're not going to change, because our idea is to live to see another day and tell the story after that. So we're not gonna turn around and say, okay, hey, I used to be a cop. What you doing? I'm older than you. What you doing? None of that stuff matters. None of that stuff matters. So we're pretty much always going to tell our people when we're doing the workshop that that's what the intention to do. You can sit there and raise that cop up to a boiling point, or you can sit there with nothing to say and just comply.
I think it's very important that you both said you do the same thing under those circumstances. Yeah. I think it's really important that people feel, of course there is the profiling, but just to feel nobody's exempt. Everybody needs to behave in response to this in exactly the same way so that they can go home after the incident occurs.
Oh, yeah. So you have to understand, policing, it's a very machismo. It's a very machismo job. The bare muscles are there. Just the fact that the citizens of whatever municipality give you the right to carry a gun, protect, serve, and take your life if deadly physical force is being used against you or someone else imminently. It's a very heavy responsibility. If there's a dog stuck in the tree, you call a cop. You got an emotionally disturbed person on the street, you call a cop. Car accident, call a cop. Kid hit with a bike. So cops are used to being in charge all the time. And so now when you get to this incident for this, you want to write a summons or, you want to write somebody for drinking a beer, whatever, and they get that pushback, most cops are looking and saying, hey, I'm the boss. Again, the Eric Garner incident, the same thing. He was saying, not today. That would have put a light bulb would have went off on my ear that this guy's ready to resist and he wants to fight, and he's a big guy with two small guys. Let's call back up and get a control takedown. But no, they didn't do that. They said, no, we're going to it was back and forth.
Don't matter how big he is.
It don't matter because we're the biggest gang. The police, that's another thing that I don't get with these young black men. Why would you want to fight the biggest gang in any municipality in the country? When I always tell, I can talk to gang members, Bloods, Crips, and yes, they MS-13. I say, all right, well, you call for help, I call for help. You got to go on social media, text people. I get on the radio, call for help. I got 200 people. So why would you want to fight with the cops? Why? You're never going to win. You're never going to win. In these incidents, I wish the audience, I want your listeners to know, the less you say, the better this incident is going to come out. Just give me a license. Here's my license. Get against the wall. I'm against the wall. Get down on your knees. I'm on your knees. Like, you just do it. Go by the numbers. Whatever they want you to do, you do it. Because the first time you say no, it's getting ready to, what they say, go left. It's getting ready to get tricky. And it's hard, like you said, man. It's hard for a man to have to swallow his pride. But I swallow mine as an executive. You know, I get pulled over. In New York City. And then when I show my ID at the end, they're like, oh, man, wow. Oh, sir, I didn't know. And I'm like, man, you just got your job to do. No problem. Have a nice day. I don't want to even talk to them. I don't want no conversations with them whatsoever. Less is possible. Can I have my license back now? Yes, oh, have a nice day. Thank you very much. You too, be safe. And that's from a 21-year veteran. And Dennis is a 30-year veteran.
Well, I think it's excellent advice. Again, do either of you have anything you'd like to say? You know, there's so much reference to, you know, being singled out for no reason other than driving while black. Tell us what truth there is to that. It seemingly, I've seen a couple of videos where it appeared that the officer really had to look for something once the individual is stopped. What say you? Is there truth? Is there truth to that? It sure looks like it.
Lie.
So
the numbers don't lie. It's there. Racial profiling is alive and well. I mean, look in New York City. To stop questioning and frisk, they had a federal judge that had to stop NYPD from stop questioning and frisking everybody, stopping all of these people. Over 95% of the people didn't get arrested or issued a summons. So it's there. So we got to deal with the monkey in the room, the elephant in the room. Racial profiling is there. It's alive and well. And knowing that, as a black man, I'm really not going to play with them. I'm not going to play with them. I get pulled over. I already know that I'm being racially profiled, or there's a high propensity that I have been. I'm not going to fight with these people. And so what we need to do to stop this racial profiling and stuff, we have to vote. We got to put people in office that got our best interest. You know, if you elect a mayor or higher office, you elect the president that don't got your best interest, who you think you're going to elect the attorney general? Jeff Sessions. That's what you're going to get. So if we're not voting, and local voting is what really matters. Like, you know, I go to meetings, I ask people, how many times you've been in your school board? Do you know when your police community council meeting is? Have you voted for every election? Did you vote for the local judge? Like, if we're not voting, which our ancestors shed blood to do, we got to put people in place. Because if you hire a mayor that got your best interest, you're probably going to put a police commissioner or attorney general that's going to have your best interest and not have people racial profiling or stop, the Civil Rights Division in the Department of Justice now. So we get what we vote for. And that's how you make change. You got to put people in position that got your best interest.
Well, that sounds like a very big job to me. I agree with you totally, but it sounds like a very big job when you're talking about law enforcement across our country. When I listen to you two, you've got it right. You've got the psychology right. You've got the approach right. You've got years of understanding. Is there something that you would say both to officers that have been in a long time and they've got a certain perspective, or is it the new breed of cops that are taking a different approach with the power plays, like you said, with the badge and the gun? I have a friend who is in California who is an officer, and I said to her, I would be no good with a badge, because I'd be standing in line at the grocery store and holding my badge and say, let me in front of you. Mm-hmm. I'm just joking, of course. But the whole point is, that it does give you a sense of power and authority and control that, is, I'm sure, as we can see, is taken way out of context and perspective for so many, and it's used poorly. It's used improperly. So it's a big job, I think, getting everybody on the same page about how policing should be done. But would you say it's the new breed, or would you say that there's just something very internal and deep that it may take a while before it's uprooted?
Yeah,
I think
it's going to
take
a while. It's going to take
a
while. But you know what the best thing that has happened in policing, and Dennis will agree, is technology, cell phone cameras. Yeah. Remember, before police was in control of the narrative, they would say, he reached for a gun, we killed him, and the citizens give the cops the benefit of the doubt. Well, the benefit is gone now because we're looking at video now. So that benefit, they can't control the narrative anymore. So I believe just with cell phones and so much technology, eventually it's going to stop. Because I know thousands of cops that, saying like, yo, man, they don't even want to pull nobody over. They don't want to stop nobody. They just basically want to go to work and come home. Because they're all scared. No one wants to be on the front page of the newspaper. So
we have to believe that.
It's been over 100 years. We was waiting for the police department to change from the leadership, and we know that didn't happen. So technology is going to be the change. It's a forced change.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of.
And what would you like to add, Mr. Jones?
Well, we definitely understand that that's really the crust that's making things change now, is that the videos that are out there, everyone has a camera attached to their building. Everybody's got a cell phone. There is video footage everywhere now. So no one can say that I didn't do that, So you have to recognize that abuse of authority exists. Abuse of authority exists in all of the police departments. It's just a determination of at what level in each police department that it exists. When you have over 1,100 people dying at the hands of police each year, something's wrong. Something is wrong. And, again, monitoring it, looking at the video, looking at what took place during these stops, during these arrests, and during these situations where people were killed, at the hands of police, some study has to be done where some departments are going to now have to adhere to the changes. New York, obviously, has got some beginning to that, because they've got, decrees and things set in place now for them to have to act in a certain way. So I guess from that point, we should see what other police departments will end up having, later on. But it is the beginning of a change.
Let me add that me, Dennis and I, we don't hate cops. My daughter's a cop. My nephew's a cop. We're both retired police officers. So what happens is when one cop does something, it reverberates around the country. Just think about doctors kill people every day. Nobody hates all doctors.
Nope.
But one cop kill an unarmed black man, the entire country hates him, hates the police. It's such a heavy responsibility that you're taking at the age of 19, 20, 21, and some of the college. You got 60 college credits or just a high school diploma. You get 6 months of training. They put a gun in your hand and they say, hey, go conquer the world. And your first job is a domestic violence incident. You never even had a girlfriend. Your second job, you got an emotionally disturbed person, 6'5", frothing at the mouth, butt naked in Brooklyn on the street. You got to stop that. So police officers deal with a lot of stress, with a lot of pressure. But what I like to tell them all the time when I talk to cops, you can't handle it. McDonald's is always hiring.
Well, it sure is an option. That's for sure. Well, gentlemen, listen. I'm going to wrap up soon, but there's two other things I'd like for you to do. Do you feel that there is any kind of training that could be offered to officers? Or I've often thought of, in fact, I wrote to the White House about this a few years ago, never heard anything back, but if there's another type of technique that could be used for apprehending people when they're not cooperating the way that you want them to? Because I've literally seen as many as 10 or 15 officers on one person, and then we saw that story that was all over the news where that one officer was needing some help and the woman jumped in and helped her. So we obviously know that it doesn't take that kind of response to get someone under control and get them handcuffed. So do you feel that there is an alternative method that could be used during some of those encounters, or if there is any additional type of training that could be provided, be it physical or psychological?
Well,
Mr. Jones?
I would believe that there's so many groups out there that offer training. There's so much the different models that are in place. The police departments have to be interested in this. It's not the police officer, but the police departments have to be interested. They're finding police departments all over the country right now that have been operating without any training, that have had one black officer or one minority in their departments, or a very, very low minority in their departments that are nowhere near the makeup of their community. And when they find that, you recognize that there is a problem. And it's exposing that one problem right there gets them to realize that they need a lot more to be looked at. So I think that there is a lot of training available already, and they just need to have the people to go ahead and start looking at departments, to start looking at saying this is what we need. Nobody wants to really call the attention to their police department, but it is imperative that they start doing it. It is imperative.
Would you like to add something, Mr. Gaze?
Yeah, the leadership. I'm all about the leadership. I was a leader, and I know how leadership works. It's all about the leadership. The leadership has to make sure that again, let me just put this out here, that the overwhelming majority of the cops, I believe that they're good cops. But there's a bucket of bad apples. And leadership know who they are. It's like you in your profession, whatever you do. When you walk in 2 weeks, by 2 weeks, you know who the lazy person is at the job. Same thing in policing. We know who the bad cops is because after 2 weeks, everybody's saying, I don't want to work with that person. I don't want to work with Dennis Jones. Now I don't want to work with him. Because they know he's the one that's going to get you fired. He's the one that's going to get you jammed up to make you lose your job. And all the cops know it, and the leadership knows it, and nobody does anything about it.
It's ignored.
Yeah, they ignore it until you end up with a Louima, with a Mike Brown and all of these other incidents. Even the guy that killed Tamir Rice, he got fired from the police department in the next town a week prior because he couldn't pass the shooting range. But they hired him to carry a gun in Cleveland. And I'm pretty sure they probably had an uncle or somebody make a couple of phone calls. And they was like, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. He ended up killing Tamir Rice. And so leadership, I'm strictly holding leadership accountable because it's top down. They know what's going on. They're the eyes and ears. And leadership, I'm talking from sergeant up to the chief. Those are the people that's in charge. When I had a bad cop, like I talked about that young white cop that worked for me and told me basically that he was racist, I assigned a sergeant to him. I grabbed a sergeant and told him, he's your project now. You watch him. You're going to be with him every day. He drives you every single day. You're going to be his attitude adjuster. I made sure it was a black sergeant, too. So, yeah, he's going to drive with you every single day until he learns how to treat this community. Because it doesn't matter how much training, the training doesn't matter. Because if I don't like this segment of the community, you can train me to do whatever when I get out there, but what I want to do.
Well, you know what that says to me, and that's just how I'm going to have you guys wrap. I'm going to thank you, first of all, for being so knowledgeable and transparent and sharing all the same concerns and giving the advice that you have. It sounds like to me because of that issue existing the way it is, and until that does change, the responsibility is on the shoulders of all of us as individuals, again, and how we handle these encounters. And so what I'd just like for both of you to do before I wrap up, if you have anything additional as far as messaging to us as a community, and not just in terms of protecting ourselves, but maybe perhaps you can offer us something, and maybe there's something interactive we can do that maybe will help with better relations.
Yeah, I suggest that you get to know your local police officers. You get to know your local commanders, because I had to have a monthly meeting every month, and people would come there, and I was on notice because they was in my face telling me, "Look, this cop did this," or "I got a call on my block for 3 weeks and nobody's moved," So it was personal. I got it, and I felt like I can't let this person down. And we should encourage a lot more minorities to join police, because as long as we say we don't like the police, guess we're going to get the jobs, making $100,000 or whatever they're going to make, 70 or whatever they're going to make. We need to be in there to make our voice count. When I made captain, I was one of 13 black executives in a 40,000-man police department, but I was a captain, so I had a voice. No matter when I went to all these meetings, I was the only black captain in the room. They couldn't say nothing because the black captain was in the room. If we're not in there, we're never gonna be able to have a vote. So we gotta be in there. And I want everybody to buy my book, Once a Cop, The Street, The Law, Two Worlds, One Man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Thank you. Mr. Jones?
Well, I definitely believe that a lot of the interaction, again, starts at home, and it starts with a community. Community can be stronger than what ails the police department. The police department is always going to have a struggle trying to, get better, because it's always going to be another year that they're going to bring in another 200 or 300 new officers that don't know what they're doing and training them. And then, again, the same cultural divide will exist. It takes the community now to interact with each other, have more workshops, have more times where you're having this discussion at the churches, you're having discussions at the police, at the school levels, you're having discussions at just homes, so that you can talk to your sons and your daughters about these situations. This is very important. And if we can at least get that far, we've already put a protective coating over our community. And as Corey said, we need to now become involved, in not just the police department, but in law enforcement, period. There's so many other law enforcement entities that exist, and we could be part of it, so that, again, we can have a say-so.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you again. You have both been so very informative, and I truly believe helpful as far as the goals that I set forth in doing this show, and having you particularly address these concerns. It's one thing to hear somebody talk about these things for 5 minutes or 2 or 10, but I wanted to provide some more information and insight, some more depth, and you really did just hit it out of the park for me. So I'm thankful, and I'm going to look forward to doing some follow-up somewhere down the road. And Mr. Pegues, I'm particularly wanting to talk to you about your book. We didn't get to do that tonight, but there's a lot that didn't come out in this conversation that I know would fascinate people. So I'm going to look forward to getting in touch with you again regarding that. And Mr. Jones, I've had you on before, and I thank you for your willingness, as I said. And again, it was really very insightful. I appreciate you both, and especially with it being late evening there. I know you got other things you need to do. So thanks again, and God bless you, and keep up the amazing work that you're doing to try to help people and take them to another level. Thank you so much. You guys have a good night.
Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye now. And I want to thank all of you who took the time tonight to tune in to listen to such a great conversation with these two gentlemen, Mr. Corey Pegues and Mr. Dennis Jones, really brought some very important information, I think, to the light that's going to be helpful to all of us. I just want to reiterate one particular message that I got from this, and that regardless of what happens in your encounters with these officers, remember that your goal needs to be to get home. As hard as it may be for you to zip it up, be calm, listen, and comply. These gentlemen know what they're talking about, so let's just try to do that so we can go back home to our families and our friends and the people who love us. Fight that fear, fight that frustration, and just remember, just like they have the philosophy, they want to go home, you want to go home too. I'd like for you to share this show with others, and I would like for you to, check out other things that are going on in the Voxology menu. I have a lot of podcasts. Just check them out and see what might interest you. There's something for everybody. Not everything that I do is quite as serious as this, but this is something that needs to be talked about. And when there's something that's serious to be talked about, I like to bring it from my perspective as well. So I would like to have you tell your friends on social media about what's going on here. It's always enlightening, empowering, and something that definitely, again, to help you see things more clearly. So I'm going to bid you all a very good night. I'm going to look forward to talking to you again next time. In the meantime, be good, be blessed, be awesome.